Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 65 of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. My name is Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And you know who else is with me?
Yep, the other half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Santoki here and Mash. We're doing a special episode, we've been on hiatus for a while. West Indies haven't been playing. We thought, let's take a break. We're back to answer a few questions from the fans. But first, Mashal, there's a big question I need to ask you. Obviously, regular listeners of the podcast will know Mashal's a big Bromley Football Club United supporter. Mashal, it was a week of triumph for you on Sunday. Wembley, FA Trophy, Bromley finally achieved it. Just sum up for people. How did that feel for you as a fan of Bromley? Been waiting years for this moment, Mash.
Listen, people think that my number one passion is West Indies cricket, and to some extent it is, but this love affair I've got with the football half of me, and more specifically Bromley Football Club, has been going on since my first game was when I was 15 years old. I'm deep in this whole thing now. And what can I say, people? On Sunday, the 22nd of May, they made history. They won the FA Trophy. Now, I don't know what people know about football who listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, but that's the biggest trophy that Bromley can realistically win, apart from getting promoted to League Two. It's the biggest trophy they can realistically win. It's like the FA Cup of non-league football. And Santoki, I was there on that Sunday with 46,000 people as we beat Wrexham. I'm not even doing it justice, Santoki, because if if you saw the pictures of what I was doing up on Sunday, you wouldn't even recognize that it was one of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. But you know what, Santoki? It was an unforgettable day, and it's going to live long in my memory. In fact, it will never leave my memory.
Yeah, good to hear. And not only were you with 46,000 fans, a few days before you were in front of millions of fans on BBC representing Bromley FC. I know a lot of people say Caribbean Cricket Podcast is a big platform, but Mashal was there last week. Bromley through and through on BBC. But yeah, congratulations to Mashal and all the Bromley fans.
Most definitely. And you know what? I should have been wearing my Caribbean Cricket Podcast shirt, but I always forget to plug the merchandise. I always forget to do it. And actually, for those of you who are watching this on the visuals, you know what, Santoki? 1 second. For those watching the visuals, obviously on the audio, you're going to hear me moving now and disturb the audio. But bear with me 1 sec. Yes. Look what I've got. For those who are on the visuals, it's the brand new Caribbean Cricket Podcast hoodies, the maroon hoodies. Can you see? How well can you see it on the camera, Santoki? The maroon hoodies, people. If you're in the UK, you can get these for 35 quid a piece, unless you're a patron, in which case you're going to get 10% off. There is no extra shipping fee for any of these hoodies to go out. It's just 35 quid all up. Unless you're a patron, 10% off. And if you're abroad, we will send it abroad as well. I just sent one to the United States today. There's another one going out to New Zealand in the coming days. So we do ship abroad as well. And that's 45 quid for the ones going abroad, because obviously it's more expensive to ship them abroad. But do get involved with the Caribbean Cricket Podcast hoodie. Santoki, I need to give you one,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and I think you're gonna be taking some out to the Netherlands when you're covering West Indies out there next week, aren't you, Mesh?
Yeah, most definitely. So yes, I will be in the Netherlands next week, people. Obviously, when this comes out, this should come out before the end of the week. I'll be in the Netherlands, watching all 3 games of the West Indies tour of the Netherlands, of the ODI tour. Looking forward to that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to be getting some exclusive interviews for Caribbean Cricket Podcast, players, fans, officials, this, that, and the other. So look out for the content Look out for the content coming online as well. And Santoki, also tell the people about us and Surrey and head into Surrey and whatnot.
Yeah, so we're obviously well, where to start? Yeah, we're going to be covering hopefully a few Surrey T20 Blast games. So over the course of the next few weeks, you'll catch us at the Oval, maybe some other grounds like Lords, doing content for their Instagram page. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. We'll obviously post more details on our social media, but we'll be about during the county season, T20 Blast. Obviously, Sunil Narayan and Kyron Pollard at Surrey Cricket Club. So we got to be there for the vibes, Mash.
Most definitely. Listen, people, you must have thought, where's Caribbean Cricket Podcast? They've gone a bit quiet as of late. We're plotting. We've got lots of things coming up this month, next month. Next month and the month after, loads and loads of content coming up. So do keep your eyes on it. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Get all over it. And watch out for the content. I started off the content today as well, Santoki. Did you see my bleep test?
Yeah, man. Listen, I hear Desmond Haynes is holding a press conference, Mashel. Record breaking out here.
For those who haven't seen it, if you go on our Instagram page or on Twitter, you'll see me doing up the bleep test. Yo-yo test is what we'd call it in the Caribbean. You see me doing it up in my full work clothes, in my Clark shoes. I ran the bleep test, people, just to see how hard it actually is. And I think I've made the qualifying mark for the West Indies team, so it can't be that hard. So do go and watch that content as well. But listen, we said when we announced that we were going to do this next episode after our bit of a hiatus and a bit of a break, we wanted to do a mailbag episode. We haven't done one of these in a long while. And thank you to all the people who've sent in questions for us to get into. And Santoki, I mean, let's get straight into it. The first question that I got was from Ashanti Stevens, who said, what is going on with the West Indies A team? And I've got an answer for that, Santoki, but I think let's try and set some context first and foremost, because obviously, Santoki, obviously there's a lot of noise about how West Indies performing. I mean, the A team relates more so to red ball cricket, how West Indies perform and so on and so forth. But COVID has had an impact in this regard, Santoki.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I guess New Zealand, when we went to New Zealand, that was a strange one because we actually almost did have a full A-team tour. Obviously, we played 2 first-class matches alongside the regular test matches. But you felt that was more of a reason as to players having to quarantine for 14 days. And so obviously they wanted to stay out in New Zealand longer. So we saw the likes of Fabian Allen, Nicholas Pooran play some first-class games. But yeah, generally at the moment, due to financial reasons and the COVID pandemic mash, we haven't had an A-team sort of official tour go on anywhere for the past 3 years now, coming up to 3 years, I'd say. So it massively hinders the development. But Mashel, do you see them starting anytime soon, restarting these?
So I have got some, I guess. Is this an exclusive? It's an exclusive of sorts, but it's yet to be officially confirmed. But people can take my word for it. Let's say it's 85% certain. And obviously, but that leaves that 15% margin for error in case somehow, for whatever reason, things don't work out as they are supposed to go. I have it on very good understanding that when Bangladesh come to the Caribbean in July, so I'm just looking now, in July, and when India are here or in the Caribbean in August, the West Indies are supposed to have an A team playing some one-day matches and a couple of like what we call like unofficial A team test matches. That's what I've been told. Now, I hasten to add, and it's important to note with West Indies cricket, until something is officially confirmed, anything can happen in West Indies cricket. So just because I'm saying it on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast and it appears as a bit of an exclusive, do be mindful that things could change. But like I say, as I understand it, discussions have taken place. I was led to believe that the opponents, I think all that was left to sort out when I last was speaking about it or finding out about it was the opponents' kind of like itinerary and logistics and all of that stuff. Once that is confirmed, I am led to believe that there will be an announcement that there will be an A-team tour running possibly concurrently with the back end of the Bangladesh tour and the start of the India ODI and T20 tour. I don't know if that means we're playing India A. I don't know if that means we're playing Bangladesh A. I don't know. But as I understand it, there is some 18 cricket scheduled. What's your thoughts on that, Santo?
No, that's good news, and then exclusive there, Mash. Yeah, it'd be great because at the moment we don't have something to bridge that between regional cricket, where obviously a lot of fans lament the poor standard of regional cricket, and then jump into international cricket. If somebody hits a century for, let's say, Leeward Hurricanes, how do you put that into context, bearing in mind the quality of the regional game, and do you expect them to jump into international cricket? Obviously, if we go and play India A tour in white ball or red ball cricket, we're at least giving ourselves some context as to how these players stand up at an international level. I mean, an India A team, for instance, would be an international quality side. So I think we badly need to bridge that gap. Obviously, at the moment, there are a lot of names being called in the regional game. Oh, they should be in the West Indies cricket team. They're putting up performances. If there's an A team tour going on, we put them in there. That's a perfect opportunity. If they perform there, sink or swim, that determines whether they go into the international test side. So I think for me, it fills in a missing gap, which we've really needed for the past 2 years under the pandemic, and it's really hindered our development in the test arena.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out as well, Santoki, that we always talk about past episodes we've done, but it's worth reminding everyone that when we spoke to Shay Hope, which would have been, I think, episode 49, Shay made the point that he didn't feel that the best versus best games were that helpful. Obviously, that was all West Indies could put on. So he wasn't critical of the fact that they were put on. He was more critical of the fact that it didn't match the level of intensity that was needed to best prepare him for his game. And even, Santoki, if we wanted to get even more technical about it, the problem we've got, which isn't really this question, but it kind of links. The problem we've got as well, and the current West Indies Championship is a good example. Players like Shay Hope, Brandon King, who else should I call? Even the Jaden Seals, etc. We're going to end up with a 5-round West Indies Championship tournament, and they would have played one game because of their other international commitments with the white ball teams. And unless there's like an 18 bridge, you're going to always have these situations where actually there's nothing for them to play to be able to really work on their game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'd even go further to say a 5-round, obviously COVID's affected it, a 5-round regional season isn't enough anyway. If you played all 5 games, it's still not enough red ball cricket. So even for those regular players, you know, the likes of like a Shane Dowrich, who's going to play all 5 games, to get more games in the red ball arena against the A team is going to prepare them as well. So it's massively needed. The more the merrier of West Indies, the more games we can get, more tours we can get. It can only be good for our development.
Most definitely. Then the next question, Santo, you might have to remind me who actually sent this one in. But the next question we got out of the mailbag was, why don't West Indies have a set? I think they mean a set sponsor because we've had bits and pieces. So why don't West? Who sent this one, Santo? Do you have the name?
Someone called Ad Hall on our Twitter page. His @ is the Boogeyman GP.
Oh my God. So I'm the Boogeyman, and I'm going to get you.
So the Boogeyman, he wants to know. I mean, it's a legitimate question, Mash. It would look strange to a viewer seeing West Indies. Was it the India tour or the tour before that, where without having a sponsor on the kit as an international side? Marshall, do you want to go into that? Why, in your opinion, why don't West Indies have a major sponsor on their kit?
So there's always different angles to look at things. I think the first reason, so I think against Ireland, I think we had nobody. And then against India, we had that one-off, was it Royal Stag or something like that? In the white ball series, we had Royal Stag. And even before that, Santoki, for a while, we were playing with tape over sandals.
Listen, instead of warm-ups, these guys were doing up sellotape, you know. The struggle's real. The struggle's real in West Indies cricket, man.
Oh, and the thing is, the tape over sandals wasn't even...
You could still see it.
Sandals were still out here getting free sponsorship. We shouldn't laugh, but we have to, like... The thing is, we're not even saying this to like take the mick out of West Indies or Cricket West Indies or anyone. It's just, it is what it is. Like that's what was going on. So we had Royal Stag versus India, and then versus England, we had Cricktoss.
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Cricktoss.com, which I'm not sure if that's some NFT thing. I don't
Yeah, I
even
think
fully
it was,
understand
yeah.
what NFT even is, but I think it's some kind of NFT thing. Now, what I don't know, and maybe because I didn't pay enough attention, is whether Cricktoss.com is now our long-standing sponsor going forward. So when we play, in fact, it'll be interesting because when I'm in the Netherlands next week, it'll be interesting to see if Cricktoss.com is who is on our shirts for the maroon shirts versus the Netherlands, or whether when we play Bangladesh, will Cricktoss.com be on the shirts for the Bangladesh show? I probably should know the answer to this, so I will look in a minute just to confirm if it's a long-standing agreement. But ultimately, Santoki, that notwithstanding, the reality is COVID has hit regions like the Caribbean. If the West Indies were England, and it's not about big three here, but if the West Indies were England, India, Australia, they might probably even throw in New Zealand there just for argument's sake, Pakistan as well. We're not flush with money in the Caribbean. So other than, I feel like in the Caribbean, Santoki, other than your big brands, so you're talking Sandals, Digicel, to name two, if your big Caribbean brands like that aren't involved, who else is going to get involved? So it's interesting that we've now branched out away from the kind of specific big Caribbean brands to now start looking at NFT stuff. And maybe that's just the realities of the market now, that we just got to take what we can get. Maybe, I mean, Sandals had been sponsoring West Indies for a long time, a real long time. Digicel before them. So, maybe it's just the realities of a COVID and then post-COVID market, where actually we got to kind of do like a Harry Redknapp kind of. We got to just hustle. We got to hustle to find whatever deals we can find.
Yeah, no, 100%. And when you think about the Caribbean in terms of regions in the world, it's so dominated by tourism. To be hit for 2 years, pretty much. Obviously, industries like Sandals, they're going to lose money, so they won't have that expenditure to spend on sponsorship. So it's just it's just the wider effect of kind of the global economical situation at the moment, which is probably why. Do you think it reflects anything on the quality of the West Indies side, Mashal? Do you think that would have any bearing on the lack of sponsor?
I mean, at the end of the day, sponsorship is revenue, isn't it? So I felt a bit when we lost the Sandals sponsorship. Whatever, I mean, obviously there was a press statement, and there was kind of like, we thank Sandals for their long-standing partnership and we wish them well. But it must have been a bummer. It must have been a bummer to lose. Everybody knows Sandals. And then all of a sudden we got nothing. Then Royal Stag. What the hell is Royal Stag? What the hell is Cricktoss.com? And in fairness, actually, I better. So whilst I was talking, I was like, I better actually know what I'm talking about. So just to clarify, this was a statement from West Indies. Cricket West Indies has today announced Fan Craze and their Cricktoss.com digital collectibles program as new partners of the West Indies Test team. So it is just tests, in fairness. The Cricktoss.com branding will appear on the playing shirts of the West Indies men's team throughout the West Indies and England series. Cricket West Indies and Fan Craze have signed a multi-year partnership to develop an NFT program and metaverse products featuring the West Indies players and archives, blah, blah, blah.
Listen. A lot of fans say we're pro Cricket West Indies. We're too pro Cricket West Indies. Anyone can get a cuss out. Mashal just went on air and said, "What is Royal Stag?"
I don't know. And to be honest, I'm reading this Cricktoss thing and Fan Craze. I'm reading it like, what? Like, and do you know what? I have to let's be clear. There are some of you who will be listening to this pod recording going, don't you know what digital collectibles are? Don't you know what NFT is? I've heard these names, but I don't know what they actually are. And what, more importantly, the point I'm making, like, Cricket West Indies have to just make their money any which way they can. But the point I'm making is, when I hear Cricktoss.com, I don't know what that's got to do with the Caribbean, is what I'm basically saying. And because we're so used to, as long-standing West Indian fans, having sponsorship which is directly linked to the Caribbean, it's going to take some getting used to see some random names that I don't have no idea or possibly don't even care what they're actually selling, product, etc., etc. So note though, Santoki, when I just read that kind of press release thing, it said the test team. It didn't say ODI team. So
Yeah.
I want, when I turn up in the Netherlands next week. So who's sponsoring us for the Netherlands? Right about now, Santoki, I don't even know if there's a broadcast for that Netherlands game, that Netherlands series, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I hope you've got some spare Caribbean Cricket Podcast logos, Mash. We might be able to get in there, before the Netherlands series.
Do you know what? I might have to take some masking tape and just write Caribbean Cricket Podcast on top of it with black marker and stick it on the shirts,
Oh, man.
Anyways, moving on. Santoki, you'll have to remind me who said this one. What measures are Cricket West Indies taking to oversee the development of young talent? Who said that?
Yes, so this was Shanook on Twitter again. Yeah, asked that one. What measures are they taking? Are they part of any high performance or under 23 programs, Mash?
Yeah, so let me read again, because whoever sent that question may not know that there's been some news on this in the last couple of months, and this is something that I've got to give Cricket West. It's probably long overdue. And again, we have to go back to finances, etc. But we have to give Cricket West Indies credit for this. Obviously, they've been developing the Coolidge Cricket Ground as essentially like the Caribbean hub for cricket.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, every island country would have their own hub. So one in Guyana, one in Trinidad, etc. That meets the same standards, like academy standards and facilities, as what you would expect at the Coolidge Cricket Ground. But let me just read this. So a couple of months ago, Cricket West Indies announced the formation of a new emerging players academy aimed at supporting the development of world-class players from the Caribbean. They said the academy, which will run annually, will utilize the facilities at the Coolidge Cricket Ground in Antigua, which is the new home of West Indies cricket, where the best young men's and women's cricketers will come to Antigua throughout the year for several high-performance training and development camps. The first intake for this Emerging Players Academy will start July 2022, so 2 months away, and it will run for a year. Up to 30 players will be selected from both the men's and women's talent pool, aged between 19 and 25. The purpose of this is to bridge the gap after the West Indies under-19 level and assist their progression into one of the 6 territorial board franchise squads, with the intention that they will graduate to earn one of the 15 retainer contracts available in each team. Then, I mean, there's lots more, but basically players selected have to meet the fitness requirements. So, boy, that's already about 10 man can't go. But players selected will have to meet the fitness requirements. And it just talks about how the camps will focus on financial management, personal development, leadership, and so on and so forth. Oh, and also, Santoki, they've announced that the emerging players team will return for Super 50. So that team will come from the players who are selected in this camp. So assuming Super 50 returns at the end of 2022, you would expect an emerging players team to come from this camp. So, Santoki, what's your instant reaction when you hear something like that?
Yeah, no, similar to the A-team tours is essentially what we need. At the moment, we've sort of got a problem in the regional cricket where we see players perform well at the under-19 World Cup and then they don't get into their 15-man squad at a regional level and they're sort of left lingering. I'm thinking of like someone like a Jayed Gully, who's like 24, 25. Even Tagenarine Chanderpaul, he's coming up to 26. But we still see him as a youngster because there's no sort of development pathway for them to get the skills to come into a regional side. I mean, you don't blame regional selectors. They have to pick a side to win a trophy. So they're not going to take a hunch on an under-19 player. However, if that person's been performing at a higher level and there's a pathway, a way in, then they can obviously use that and it'll benefit the players. So I think similar to the A-team tours, it will massively develop our regional game, which is needed.
Yeah, and we got to remember as well, how many years ago now, just before COVID, so what, 2.5 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, the emerging players team that played the Super 50 won it. Now, that team had Josh De Silva in it, for example. He's now an established player within the West Indies test side. It had players like Yannick Correa in it, who is now established within the Trinidad first class and white ball setup. So I kind of see it as football and like an under-23s league prior to getting into the first team setup. So it's similar to that. And the reality is too many players in the West. No, actually, two things. One, too many players get lost between under 19s and first team setups in the Caribbean. Two, players, actually, so it's three things. Two, players end up getting fast tracked too quickly. So think Alzari Joseph performs at the under 19 World Cup straight into West Indies team without any kind of bridging between that and coming into kind of the senior team. And three, without this kind of bridging between under 19s and seniors, you end up, as Santoki's intimated, with players taking so long to finally find their game. So Tage, I don't know, as we're recording, I don't know, was Tage still not out today, Santoki?
Yeah, so live at the moment, he's 96 not out in the current game.
So Tage is looking like he's about to ton up again. He's already hit a ton in the last game versus, who was it against? Barbados. Yeah. Then he hit a T20 innings in the second innings against Barbados. Now he's about to ton up versus Jamaica. Now, as Santoki says, Tage is coming up to 26. He's possibly only just finding his true self and game now. Look at Nkrumah Bonner, Santoki. He's only found his true self at the age of 33. The reality is for West Indian players, they take longer to mature because our system and our setup doesn't help them to be able to mature quick enough. And if somebody could retort to us, Santoki, and go, yeah, but what about Josh Da Silva? But he went and played in England. He was part of Pollard's what do you call it?
Scholarship.
The partner scholarship. He took Pollard's scholarship, went to England, and Josh himself will say publicly that really helped him. So this is necessary. This is necessary. But what people have to also understand, Santoki, is it won't reap immediate returns.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, I know we can't compare ourselves to England because of the financial resources, but if you're an English player, you come through an academy, then your regional side, say you play for Surrey, your local county, they have a second team. You play for the second team. Then you get into the first team. If you're performing well there, you don't just jump into England. You play on the England A, England Lions tour, and then you make the international time. So there's about 5 steps on the ladder, whereas West Indies have like 1 or 2, basically. So it's just filling in those gaps and trying to create a more concise and tighter network to build players up and develop them. As you said, at the moment, our players lose out on valuable years of development and they're expected to just sort of find their way.
Most definitely. Moving on, 2 more questions, people out of the mailbag. And thank you so much for everyone who sent questions in. We can't record this episode if people don't send the questions in. So thank them. Thank you, for sending them in. Who is this one, Santoki? Should they market domestic cricket better? Was that Sumit?
Yeah, Sumit, yeah.
Right, so Sumit, and actually Sumit, big up Sumit.
Yeah,
I sent your brand new maroon Caribbean Cricket Podcast hoodie. I sent that in the post today, Sumit. So that should turn up to you hopefully sometime in the next week and a half. Big up yourself for ordering and getting involved. So Sumit says, should they market domestic cricket better? So Santoki, you and I were talking about this question just before we press record. And you said to me that you actually think they do quite a good job. Expand.
Yeah, I think just in the context of the past few years, we've now got live streams of every single game on YouTube, run pretty well, have commentary as well. So essentially, for me, it's always going to be hard to market first-class West Indies games to those, unless you're West Indian or you're a diehard cricket fan who just loves watching cricket. You're never going to breach that and get into a general audience. So for me, the fact that you have live streams and coverage, I think, is a good foundation to build on and gets enough people. I mean, generally in the streams, you can see there's a lot of comments, a lot of views. So obviously people are engaging. And also the Super 50 we talked about, we live in England. It was on BT Sport, live feed, professional comment. We had Badgery commentating, all that kind of stuff on TV in England, which is rare for regional cricket. So for me, I think it is visible and it is marketed quite well, especially me and you, Mash, who have grown up over the years trying to scramble for West Indian regional results over the years. So we're at a good place. Obviously, there will be some room for improvement, but for me, I don't think it's necessarily a bad marketing strategy at the moment in terms of their regional game.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I know there's some people I know who will be critical and say things like, yeah, but when you watch the stream, where's the scorecard so you know what's going on? I want to see that more regularly. They'll say something like the camera angles, there should be more than like than 2 camera angles or whatever it might be. Or they might say the score updates need to we need to know who's out and who the bowling figures. Yeah, I hear all that, and that's valid. But we also have to remember that we're coming from a position of seeing nothing. Although I want to see all of that stuff, and although I'd love the streams to maybe be a bit more like some of the county streams or something like that in England per se, I'm not saying we got to grin and bear it and take what we can get, but I am also kind of saying, actually, with the financially, what more do people want? From a financial perspective, a realistic financial perspective, what more do people want? And actually, Santoki, do you know what? Do you know who I think is benefiting most from these kind of YouTube streams? Is probably the diaspora.
Yeah, I was going to say
the ones who are loving it.
I was going to say, because obviously in the Caribbean, you're working. The regional games start at 10, finish at 5. Most people are working. And also in the Caribbean, there's still a strong radio culture. You're listening to on radio. You won't necessarily watch streams. So for me, the streams have always been about getting into diaspora. So if you're a fan in the UK or even the USA, obviously you can tune in and watch it. But if your prime audience isn't really going to engage with live streams, which is the Caribbean, then why would you spend more money marketing it when you could, as you said, we've talked about so far all episode, West Indies' lack of resources, when you can delegate that money elsewhere and put it into more worthwhile causes. As long as you have a stream that people can watch well, which I think it is at the moment, then I'm happy with that. Obviously, anything else will be a bonus, but I'd rather the finances and money go into other needed things like development of players or other aspects of the game, because I think the streams from my end are perfectly fine.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you and I were both watching, for example, when Tage came out for that kind of thriller with Barbados, where Guyana in his chase, 68 in, I don't know, 12 overs, whatever it might be. There would have been a time where we wouldn't have known that Tage had hit 23 off 9 balls, whatever it was he did, until the following morning when we would have gone on ESPN Cricinfo to see the final scorecard.
Yeah, no.
But we were able to both watch it late at night in the UK at 10:30 p.m. and see Tage pull off a random T20 innings to win the match. I love to see that personally. So I'm not going to be overcritical of what they're doing. And as you say, Santoki, in terms of marketing it better for the actual fans in the Caribbean, well, it's at a difficult time. Listen, how are we going to market? And remember, all of these games are in Trinidad as well. We're still not really out of COVID. It's not like Guyana played Barbados at Providence. Everyone has flown to Trinidad for this game. So realistically, for these whole three next rounds. So realistically, how many people are going to turn out? Realistically. So we do have to understand that it's also not a normal domestic season where people are going home and away and so on and so forth.
Yeah, 100%, Mesh. And just to echo that, I remember back in the day having to click on Guyana Times the next day just to find a grainy scorecard. So for me, being able to watch innings live on YouTube, good quality, I'm happy. No complaints really on my side. And
the last question we've got in the mailbag, there were tons more people, but we didn't want to make this too long an episode. We've got better. Once upon a time, Santoki and I would have been talking for 2 hours, but now we're able to narrow these episodes down, short them down to about 40 minutes max. So we want to keep them short and sweet, But the last question we got in the mailbag, Santoki, was and it was from an anonymous Guyanese supporter. Should Tagenarine Chanderpaul get his chance in the West Indies test team? I have my feelings on this, but I'm going to let you go first, Santoki.
100%. And Mash, you pulled out the receipts the other day on social media where we've been calling since 2019 for Tage to get an opportunity in the test side. Obviously, you could argue that at that point, statistically, what had he done to deserve it? He'd shown he could soak up balls, but it wasn't consistent. He hadn't put it together. But Mash, for me, the selectors saying that Tage was going to get dropped for this second round of games has basically awoken the Tage that we knew was there, because we seen a changed man. What did he do? 140 not out of 434 balls against the defending champions Barbados. And then for me, what complemented it even more was the fact that the second innings, as you alluded to earlier, we needed to hit 6 and over basically. Leon Johnson was struggling. We'd seen batsmen struggling. Tage came out and hit 23 of 10 balls, finishing it off with a dill scoop shot, which sort of shows his versatility. And it shows that he's not someone who struggles to get runs. He just knows the situation of red ball cricket, and so he chooses to play that way. If needs be, he can accelerate. He's got different dynamics and dimensions. It looks like he's about to score a century in the current game against Jamaica. Mash, if he puts together big scores against Jamaica and in our last game as well, do you think it's time to give him a test cap?
So 100%. 100% for me. In terms of, obviously, the incumbent is John Campbell. So far, John Campbell has scored 48 in the third round game that Jamaica played against Wynwood. And he's scored currently in this same Guyana game, he scored 37 in the first innings versus Guyana. So John will get another bat. John averaged, 22 versus England? Did his usual thing where he gets a couple of good starts on and so forth. John's position should be shaky. So this is weird here, people, because what you've got here now is a Jamaican arguing for a guy who needs to come and replace the Jamaican, which shows you that I'm not biased because I'm agreeing with Santoki. John's position should be shaky, even though he just got recalled again versus England, and even though arguably he should be given another series. Really and truly, he should be. If you're going to recall somebody, you've got to give them more than one series. And so arguably, he should go again versus Bangladesh. But because he underperformed versus England, you have to look at in rounds 3, 4, and 5 of the 4-day championship to see, well, who's putting up runs to challenge him. And it's Kieran Powell and Tage. But Kieran Powell, as we both agree, Santoki, has been given chances before. So we shouldn't be going to Kieran next. Irrespective of how well he does, we shouldn't be going to Kieran next. My thing is, of all the openers in the region who average above 30, Tage is the only one who's yet to be given an opportunity. Now, I'm just going to bring up some stats for people to understand. Tage has been, thing is, people misunderstand, Santoki, that Tage has been playing for a long time now, but that's because he debuted at 18. So it's reasonable to understand that he's only finding his true self now at 26, at 25, 26. Now, in 2015, 2016, Tage played 6 games for Guyana and averaged 30. This is in 4-day cricket. So 6 games, 30. In 2017, 18, Tage played 9 games for Guyana and averaged 38. In 2018, 19, just before COVID, in fact, the year before COVID, Tage played 10 games for Guyana and averaged 34. He then had a dip because COVID came, and in that COVID season, he was poor. He averaged 24. And this season, currently, is averaging above 80 with another. He's about to ton up again for versus Jamaica. So Santoki in 1, 2, 3, 4, including this, he's played 5 seasons of regional 4-day cricket, and in 4 of them, he's averaged above 30. What more does he have to do then to get his chance? To me, it makes no sense, Santoki. If we're giving everybody else a goal, we've given Devon Smith 1 million goals. Campbell's got a return. Kieran Powell got a return, got a recall earlier in the year. What does Tage have to do? Is it because he just soaks up too many balls, Santoki? Do you think it's because they think Tage soaks up a lot of balls, Craig soaks up a lot of balls, so they don't want Craig and Tage? Do you think that's all it's about in terms of not giving Tage his chance?
I literally think that's what it's about. Obviously, a lot of fans have said the same thing. My counter argument to that is our middle order tends to collapse so badly. We need people that can soak up the ball, soak up the new ball in a test. Imagine we go to Australia. I would love to have Tage and Craig soak up the ball, put some pressure on the bowlers, and make it easier for the middle order coming in with an older ball. So for me, I think it is the fact that he does soak up balls. But I'm looking at the sense of he's got a unique style. Similar to Craig Brathwaite, he doesn't play T20 cricket, rarely plays white ball cricket. So for me, he's perfect to give a shot. If we're giving Jeremy Solizano a shot, based on what, why aren't we giving Tage a shot? So I agree with what you said. Kieran Powell, as harsh as it sounds, even if he scored a triple century tomorrow, I wouldn't put him in the team because we know what he can do. We know his ceiling. Similar to John Campbell at this point. He's been playing in and out of the side for 3 years. We sort of know what we're getting in that ceiling. He'll score 30 to 35 runs. He's never going to be consistently world-class for you. So for me, Tagenarine is worth a shot in that opener position. And I would be shocked if we don't see him with a test cap this summer.
Yeah, I think, and the last thing I'd end on is, if you're going to give Tage a debut, surely or you're going to call him up. Sure, with respect to Bangladesh, I'm not saying Bangladesh are poor, but what I'm saying is in the context of world cricket, if you're going to give Tage a game, shouldn't it be versus Bangladesh at home? You wouldn't. Who have we got in Test after? The team we've got in no there because that's white ball. The team we play next after Bangladesh at home is Australia away. So you don't wait till Australia away to go. Oh, you know what, John Campbell, you're not cutting it. Let's throw in a brand new opener to go to Australia away. That don't make any sense to me. That don't make any sense whatsoever. So you do have to think when you're selecting. I do think you've got to select with one eye on what's coming and the context of what you're selecting for. So I would be disappointed if Tage doesn't go in the squad as the backup opener. I would be disappointed. At least the backup opener.
Yeah, exactly. And just to further add to that, I would expect, or I'd hope to see Brandon King sort of come in as well after his performance for Jamaica in that middle order as well. Because I think he's someone who, like you said, if we're looking at options for Australia, we can't just throw guys in for their test debut. We need to prep them against Bangladesh. So I'd like to see Tage and Brandon King get their shots against Bangladesh next month.
The only thing I'll say in the final thing, though, is if I'm right with that exclusive I gave earlier on about West Indies having a tour this year, or someone touring West Indies for an A tour this year, maybe they'll say John plays versus Bangladesh and Tage plays in the A team. I don't know. They may do that. And maybe Santoki, there's some merit to saying before you just drop him in Test cricket, let him see if he can score in 18, because he's never got an 18 chance either, as far as I can. Exactly. I need to go back and look, but I don't believe he's got an 18 chance either. So they may say, actually, go play a bit of 18 cricket first. Or certainly, you see when Bangladesh play, they must get a warm-up game before they start playing. Surely he's got to be in that.
Yeah, 100%.
So that type of thing is what we're talking about. But listen, people, that was the mailbag. We had tons more questions to answer, but we picked out the five random ones that you sent us, 5 that we thought would be worth kind of delving or diving deep into. It's a really quick episode from us on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Santo, any final words for the people?
No, obviously we've been on a hiatus, but, you know, as the famous saying goes, you can't keep a good man or you can't keep good men down. So Michelle's going to be in the Netherlands, live and direct. The content's going to be on a next level. So keep an eye out for that. If you're not following us on Instagram, Twitter, at Caribbean Cricket, make sure you follow, tune into the content, and we'll see you soon, guys.
Most definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been another episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.